You felt it shift. Something changed in the atmosphere around you. The whispers grew louder, the eyes lingered longer, the tension became thick. You are not imagining it. You are not paranoid. You are not overthinking. You are chosen. And when a chosen one rises, the enemy reacts. You have always been different, marked, set apart. Not everyone can see it, but darkness can. Listen carefully. There are 9 spiritual indicators that your opponents have already sealed their own divine defeat. Not might, not maybe. Already. This is not about ego. This is about destiny. Because when people who never cared suddenly care too much, when people who ignored you suddenly monitor you, when those who dismissed you now obsess over you, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. You are not ordinary. You never have been. And if this message resonates in your spirit, if you feel that inner knowing rising as you listen, then you already understand this frequency. Stay connected to it. Engage with it. Align yourself with it. Because what you are about to hear is not for everyone. Only the chosen recognize this. First, their sudden obsession with you is proof you carry what they fear. You noticed it. They speak your name more than you do. They analyze your words. They dissect your moves. They watch your silence. Have you ever wondered why someone who claims not to care keeps checking? Why someone who says you are irrelevant keeps mentioning you? Why someone who moved on keeps circling back? Because darkness only studies what threatens its survival. You validated it as jealousy. You minimized it as insecurity. But it is deeper than that. It is intimidation. You carry something they cannot control. Your peace unsettles them. Your resilience exposes them. Your quiet confidence disrupts them. They are not obsessed because they hate you. They are obsessed because they fear what you represent. Light does not chase darkness. Darkness reacts to light. And the moment you stepped into your awareness, the moment you stopped shrinking, the moment you stopped apologizing for your presence, the atmosphere shifted. Now they monitor. Now they strategize. Now they attempt to predict your next move. Why? Because they feel something coming. On a psychological level, your growth destabilizes their narrative. They built a story where you were small, manageable, dismissed, but you did not stay there. You evolved. And when you evolved, their illusion cracked. This is not random warfare. This is destiny pressure. Your struggle was not punishment. It was preparation. Your rejection was not abandonment. It was separation for elevation. And now that elevation is visible. So they watch. Let them. Because the very act of obsessing reveals weakness. Power does not stalk. Power does not scramble. Power does not fixate. Only threatened systems do. And if they are studying you, it means you are ahead of them. Stand firm. Do not shrink. Do not explain. Do not dim your light to calm their fear. Their obsession is not a threat to your destiny. It is proof your destiny is active. And this is only the beginning. Second, every attempt to expose you only elevates you. You saw it happen. They tried to embarrass you, but somehow you came out stronger. They tried to discredit you, but your name carried even further. They tried to drag your character through the mud, yet you walked away cleaner than before. Have you noticed that moments that should have ended you did not end you? Attacks that should have destroyed your reputation did not stick. Why? Because what they thought was exposure was actually promotion. Listen carefully. When darkness shines a spotlight on light, it only reveals how bright it truly is. They meant humiliation. Heaven turned it into amplification. They meant to isolate you publicly. But the public began to see your strength. They meant to frame you as weak, but you remained steady, unmoved, unshaken, protected. You survived attacks you logically should not have survived. Smear campaigns collapsed. False narratives unraveled. Accusations lost oxygen. That was not luck. That was covering. You are not just defended socially. You are defended spiritually. There is an unseen hand guarding your name. And that frustrates them because they expected damage. They expected shame. They expected you to shrink. Instead, you expanded. Do you understand what that does to someone who operates in manipulation? It exposes their impotence. It reveals their lack of authority. They thought they were holding a weapon, but the weapon dissolved in their hands. And now they are confused. Because every time they try to dim you, you glow. Every time they try to bury you, you rise. This is not accidental. This is destiny friction. You carry an anointing that converts pressure into promotion. That is why their attacks feel intense. But the outcome feels reversed. The very spotlight they aimed to burn you began to crown you. You did not defend yourself loudly. You did not chase every rumor. You stood firm. And that firmness became testimony. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply shines. And the more they tried to expose you, the more heaven exposed them. Did you notice that shift conversations turned? Perceptions changed. The same room that questioned you started respecting you. That is divine reversal. Your struggle was not public embarrassment, it was public unveiling. Only the chosen understand this pattern, because only the chosen are attacked before they are elevated. You are not being targeted because you are weak. You are being targeted because you are rising. And every failed attempt to shame you is sealing their defeat deeper. Stand in that truth. Do not panic when the spotlight hits you. It is not execution, it is coronation. And if this is how exposure operates at this level, wait until you see what happens next. Third, their circle begins quietly turning against them. You may not see it openly, not yet, but you can feel it shifting. The same voices that once defended them are quieter now. The same allies who stood loudly beside them have grown distant. Energy has changed. Have you noticed how their support system does not sound as confident as before? Something is cracking. You thought you were alone. You thought they were untouchable. You thought their network was solid. But listen, when someone moves against a chosen one, heaven does not just defend you, heaven destabilizes what empowers them. Allies begin to question, support begins to thin, confidence begins to erode. Not because you retaliated, because truth has weight, and lies require maintenance. Darkness can perform strength, but it cannot sustain it. At critical moments, their reinforcements will hesitate. At decisive hours, their backing will falter. At turning points, they will look around and realize the room feels different. You will not need to orchestrate it. It will happen organically. Confusion spreads in their camp. Miscommunication increases. Trust weakens. Whispers begin. The very loyalty they relied on becomes unstable. Why? Because when someone sets themselves against divine favor, they unknowingly invite internal collapse. Betrayal starts circling the betrayer. You understand betrayal deeply. You lived it. You survived it. You were the one misunderstood. You were the one isolated. You were the one talked about behind closed doors. But what you endured was preparation. Now the atmosphere is reversing. The same tension that once surrounded you now surrounds them. And this is not revenge. This is spiritual law. You were separated because of calling. They are being separated because of consequence. There is a difference. You were isolated to be refined. They are being isolated because their alignment is cracking. Watch carefully. People who once repeated their narrative will begin asking questions. People who once amplified their voice will step back. People who once defended them blindly will grow silent. That silence is loud. That distance is prophetic. Because when favor rests on you, it exposes instability around your opposition. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to celebrate it. Stand firm. This is confirmation. The warfare you endured was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal who was truly aligned. And now alignment is shifting. The ground beneath them is not as stable as it appeared. You were tested by isolation. They are being tested by disintegration. Light strengthens under pressure. Darkness fractures. And as their circle weakens, your foundation strengthens. New alliances will form for you. Stronger ones, cleaner ones, aligned ones. Because destiny replaces what warfare tried to remove. This is not the end of the shift. It is the beginning of exposure within their own ranks. And if their circle is already destabilizing, imagine what happens when the pressure increases. Fourth, their attacks become desperate instead of strategic. You can feel the shift. At first it was subtle, measured, calculated. Now it feels frantic. Now it feels emotional. Now it feels rushed. Have you noticed how their tone changed? They used to move in silence. Now they react out loud. They used to strike with precision. Now they swing wildly. That is not confidence. That is panic. When someone knows they are winning, they stay disciplined. When someone senses they are losing control, they become reckless. And you are watching recklessness unfold. Calculated moves have turned emotional. They speak too quickly. They reveal too much. They expose intentions they once kept hidden. Why? Because pressure reveals character. And your elevation is pressure. You are not chasing them. You are not responding to every move. You are simply rising. And your rising is destabilizing them. Precision gives way to exposure. They overplay their hand too early. They reveal strategies before they are ready. They push narratives without foundation. They act from ego instead of clarity. This is what desperation looks like. Darkness thrives on control, but control is slipping. You see it in their urgency. You hear it in their voice. You feel it in the atmosphere. They are no longer attacking from strength. They are reacting from fear, and fear makes mistakes. Listen carefully. When darkness panics, destiny accelerates, because desperation causes self-sabotage. They thought they were tightening the grip, but they are loosening it. They thought they were cornering you, but they are cornering themselves. You once felt overwhelmed by their confidence. Now you see cracks. You once thought they were steps ahead. Now you see they are scrambling. This is not random. This is the unraveling. Your struggle was not a sign that they were powerful. It was a sign that you were threatening. And now the threat feels real to them. So they lash out. They escalate emotionally. They expose their insecurity publicly. And every reckless move adds evidence. Stand still. Do not match their chaos. Light does not panic. Light does not rush. Light does not flail. Darkness does. You are being invited into higher composure, higher awareness, higher authority. While they spiral, you stabilize. While they rush, you wait. While they overplay, you observe. This is warfare, yes, but it is warfare already tipping in your favor, because a desperate opponent is already defeated in spirit. They just have not accepted it yet. And the more they panic, the faster the collapse unfolds. Watch carefully, the unraveling is speeding up. And if desperation is already visible, fifth, you feel an unusual calm in the middle of warfare. This is where it shifts. This is where you realize something is different about you. The conflict did not disappear. The opposition did not stop. The noise did not quiet down, but your spirit did. Anxiety that once gripped you has loosened its hold. Fear that once whispered at night has lost its voice. Sleep returns, even while storms rage. Have you noticed that you expected to be overwhelmed? You expected to break. You expected to panic, but you did not. Instead, there is stillness, not weakness. Stillness. That is not denial. That is divine assurance. Peace in battle is not ignorance of danger. It is awareness of protection. You are no longer reacting to every movement. You are no longer shaken by every rumor. You are no longer spiraling at every attack. Why? Because something inside you knows. Knows you are covered, knows you are carried, knows this warfare is temporary. Darkness is loud, but favor is steady. Darkness escalates emotion. Favor anchors identity, and you are anchored. Your discernment is sharper now. You see patterns quicker. You sense motives faster. You recognize manipulation before it forms. That is growth. That is elevation. Pressure did not blur your vision. It refined it. You used to question yourself. Now you trust your instincts. You used to second-guess your worth. Now you understand your value. This is not survival mode anymore. This is power awareness. You are not just enduring the storm, you are standing in authority within it. Listen carefully. The enemy expected your anxiety. The enemy expected your breakdown. The enemy expected your collapse under pressure. But instead you are calm, and calm in chaos is terrifying to darkness, because it means you know something they do not. It means you see beyond the moment. It means you are operating from destiny, not emotion. You are not fighting for validation. You are not fighting for approval. You are not fighting to prove yourself. You already know who you are, chosen, marked, protected, and when you know that warfare loses its intimidation, this calm is not accidental. It is confirmation. It is the pivot. The moment you stop surviving and start reigning internally, You feel it rising, a quiet confidence, a steady fire, a grounded authority. You are no longer reacting to darkness. Darkness is reacting to your composure. Stand in that peace. Guard it. Do not let chaos lure you back into fear. Your stillness is strategy. Your calm is weaponized faith. And if peace has already settled over you in the middle of the storm, then what comes next will not shake you. It will elevate you. Sixth, opportunities begin appearing immediately after their attacks. Pay attention to the timing. Every time they tried to shut a door, another one opened. Every time they attempted to block you, a new path revealed itself. Have you noticed the pattern? Conflict rises, pressure increases, and then suddenly, provision appears. A call you did not expect, an invitation you did not chase, a connection you did not manufacture. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. What was meant to restrict you becomes propulsion. They tried to silence you. Now more people are listening. They tried to isolate you. Now new alliances are forming. They tried to delay you. Now doors are opening faster than you can process. This is divine mathematics. Darkness subtracts, favor multiplies, and you are living inside multiplication. New relationships align without you forcing them. New opportunities surface without you begging for them. New resources appear at precise timing. Why? Because when opposition rises against the chosen, heaven responds with acceleration. You thought the attack meant setback. It meant setup. You thought the resistance meant delay. It meant redirection. Listen carefully. If the enemy truly had authority over your destiny, doors would stay closed. But they do not. They swing open, and not quietly, strategically, specifically, as if someone higher has already prepared the way. That is because someone has. You are not just surviving warfare. You are advancing through it. Every hit becomes momentum. Every attempt to corner you becomes launch. Every restriction becomes refinement that positions you for something greater. This is why you must not fear attacks. Attacks are announcements. Announcements that something larger is unfolding. You are not scrambling for opportunity. Opportunity is searching for you, because your assignment demands expansion. You are marked for influence. You are marked for elevation. You are marked for impact. And impact cannot be contained by insecure opposition. Let them try to close doors. Watch how walls become gateways. Let them attempt to restrict your access. Watch how favor creates new access points. This is not small. This is not random. This is the signature of someone divinely backed. The world operates on effort. You operate on alignment. The world chases platforms. Platforms are aligning with you. Stand steady. Do not rush ahead of what is unfolding. When opportunity follows attack, it is strategic. It is proof that restriction has already failed. And the more they push, the faster the acceleration becomes. You are no longer in defense mode. You are in expansion mode. And if doors are already opening in the wake of their resistance, seventh, their words start manifesting their own downfall. Listen closely. This is where it becomes undeniable. They speak against you. They declare your failure. They predict your collapse. And somehow, those very words begin circling back toward them. Have you noticed it? They curse your name publicly, yet their credibility weakens. They accuse you loudly, yet their motives are exposed. They attempt intimidation, yet in their tone you hear insecurity. The tongue that rose against you becomes evidence against them. This is not poetic justice. This is spiritual law. What is spoken from darkness carries its own consequence. They thought they were releasing power. They were releasing exposure. Every accusation reveals their fear. Every insult reveals their envy. Every threat reveals their instability. And you remain steady. You do not need to match their volume. You do not need to defend yourself endlessly. Because the more they talk, the more they unravel. Have you ever watched someone try to discredit you, and in the process reveal their own bitterness? Have you ever heard someone attempt to curse your progress, only to sound threatened? That is not random. That is reversal. They declare curses that boomerang. They say you will fail. Then their own plans falter. They say you are unstable. Then their emotions betray them publicly. They say you lack integrity. Then hidden motives surface. Light does not have to shout. Darkness exposes itself when it speaks too long. You are witnessing self-sabotage unfold through their own mouth. The enemy believed intimidation would weaken you. Instead, it strengthened your clarity, because now you see it plainly. Their aggression is confession. Their hostility is admission. Their fixation is surrender. They are telling on themselves. And every word spoken against you adds weight to their own collapse. You used to internalize criticism. Now you analyze it. You used to feel wounded by false narratives. Now you see the insecurity behind them. That is growth. That is authority. You are no longer absorbing their projections. You are discerning them. Stand firm. Do not fear what they say. Words spoken without truth carry consequence. And you are backed by truth. You are backed by favor. You are backed by something they cannot manipulate. The world thinks volume equals power, but in the spirit, integrity is power. And integrity does not crumble under noise. Their tongue rose against you, but it will not prosper, because every word released from envy becomes a mirror, and that mirror is turning toward them. You are not being diminished by their speech, you are being distinguished, and if their own words are already building the case for their downfall. Eighth, you are being elevated into rooms they can no longer access. Feel the weight of that. This is no longer subtle. You are stepping into spaces they once controlled. You are being acknowledged by voices they once influenced. You are being invited where their authority no longer reaches. Have you noticed the shift? Conversations are changing. Doors are opening at higher levels. Your name is being spoken in places you never campaigned to enter. That is not networking. That is positioning. Your influence is expanding beyond their reach. They tried to limit your visibility. Now your presence is increasing in rooms they cannot enter. They tried to gatekeep opportunity. Now opportunity is bypassing them entirely. This is divine bypass. Authority recognizes you without their endorsement. You are no longer waiting for their approval. You are no longer dependent on their validation. You are no longer confined to their territory. You have been upgraded, and they feel it. They feel the separation. They sense the distance. But what they see as loss is actually protection. You once thought losing access to them was a setback. It was extraction. Extraction from limitation, extraction from manipulation, extraction from small rooms with low ceilings. You were not rejected. You were redirected. You were not excluded. You were elevated. Light cannot stay confined to dim spaces forever. When your anointing grows, your environment must shift. And now you are entering rooms where decisions are made. Rooms where influence carries weight. Rooms where your voice is not silenced but sought. You did not force this. You did not scheme for this. It is alignment. When separation happens for a chosen one, it is strategic. The world sees isolation. Heaven sees relocation. They can no longer reach you like they once did. Their opinions carry less weight. Their access is limited. Their interference is blocked. Why? Because proximity was the last leverage they had, and that leverage is gone. Stand tall in this transition. Do not shrink because they feel displaced. Do not apologize for growth. You were never meant to stay confined to their level. You were meant to outgrow it. You were meant to transcend it. You are not climbing socially. You are ascending spiritually. And spiritual elevation always disrupts earthly hierarchies. The same people who tried to contain you now watch you move beyond their perimeter. That is not ego. That is destiny unfolding. Separation is no longer painful. It is empowering. Because you now understand access is power, and your access has shifted upward. You are not being blocked. You are being advanced. And if elevation is already placing you beyond their reach, ninth, the trap they set has already reversed and you are about to witness the public collapse. Feel that. Not imagined, not wished for, already in motion. They thought they were building a snare. They thought they were tightening a net. They thought they were orchestrating your downfall in secret. But behind the scenes, something else was aligning. Hidden consequences are moving into position. Conversations you cannot hear are happening. Decisions you did not request are being made. Exposure is ripening quietly. Timing is being orchestrated beyond human interference. You tried to understand how it would turn. You tried to calculate when it would shift. You wondered if justice would ever surface. Listen, you were never responsible for the reversal. Heaven was. While they plotted, alignment was forming. While they whispered, evidence was gathering. While they celebrated prematurely, the ground beneath them was weakening. The same platform they used to attack you will display their defeat. The same stage they stood on to mock you will magnify their unraveling. The same audience they tried to influence will witness the truth. And you will not need to shout. You will not need to retaliate. You will simply stand. Because when it unfolds, it will not just vindicate you, it will establish you. Do you understand the difference? Vindication clears your name. Establishment crowns it. This is not just about proving you right. This is about positioning you higher. The trap has reversed. The pressure has flipped. The narrative is turning. And when the collapse becomes visible, it will feel sudden to the world. But not to you. You felt it coming. You sensed the shift. You endured the warfare. Now you will witness the outcome. Stand steady. Do not gloat. Do not become distracted. Stay aligned. Because this moment is bigger than personal validation. It is destiny confirmation. You were attacked because you are assigned. You were opposed because you are anointed. You were targeted because you are chosen. You are not fragile. You are forged. You are not unlucky. You are marked. You are not overlooked. You are protected. Everything you endured was preparation. Every whisper built your endurance. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every delay strengthened your authority. You are chosen. Say it. You are chosen. Darkness miscalculated. They thought you were isolated. You were being fortified. They thought you were cornered. You were being positioned. They thought the trap was final. It was fatal, but not for you. If this resonates, declare it. Comment the number 9. Seal it. Acknowledge it. Because this is not entertainment. This is activation. Subscribe if you know you are set apart. Stay connected if you recognize divine timing. You were never ordinary. You were never random. You were always assigned, and what was formed against you has already begun to fall.